welcome to another gauge demo from fitgauges.com. Today I'll be showing you my custom checklist gauge. This gauge allows you to load your own custom checklists using a template that you can edit. You can share your lists with others and load ready-made lists shared by others and by fitgauges.com. First off, I'll cover what the buttons and the dials are pre-programmed to do. So on the gauge homepage there are some basic control instructions. It shows that the left dial moves the list up and down one line and that the right dial steps list up and down 5 lines at a time. The S2 button loads the checklist saved in the S2 button's code. More on this in a bit. Pressing the S6 button ticks the current action and moves the list up one line. Okay, so the S1 button opens the settings page. Once in the settings page, pressing S1 again will close the settings page. The S2 and S6 buttons we'll cover in a minute. The S3 button will test the tick sound. Just click it and the tick sound should play. S4 will toggle the tick sound on and off. S5 will toggle on and off the SPAD.next variable name for the current checklist line. In case you want to go into SPAD.next data monitor and edit the profile variable directly, it will tell you what variable you need to edit. And then the left dial will enable you to set the volume of the tick sound as well. Okay, so I'll press this one to exit the menu. Okay, so now we are in the main checklist page. To get here from the home page, you can turn either of the dials or press the S6 button. Also exiting the settings menu takes you to the main checklist as well. So the first time this gauge is loaded into a FIP, the checklist will just contain lines 0 to lines 200 until the list is actually loaded in. The gauge comes with a Boeing 737 checklist pre-programmed on the S2 button, and pressing the S2 is how you load the list into the gauge using the pre-programmed editable code. So when I press the S2, it will load the default 737 custom list. Now, to tick off items in the checklist, you simply need to just click the S6 button, and if your sound has been activated, you'll hear the little click as you tick through your checklist. So fuel flow cut off, battery master on, panel lights check, hydraulic pump switches on, landing gear lever down, etc, etc. Okay, so now I'll turn on the variable name so you can see what that does. So S1 to go into the menu, S5 to toggle the display line variable name, and S1 to exit the menu. Now you can see the variable name for the specific entry at the top of the screen. So this is telling me that I'm on a custom list line and it's 008. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off again now. Okay, so while in the list you can advance it by spinning the left dial, and this will just move the list up one line at a time, or you use the right dial and then the list will move a lot faster, 5 lines at a time. And when you get to the bottom, you'll notice at line 200 there'll be a end of checklist line, so you know where the end of the checklist is, and obviously lines in between that your last line and the end of the list will just be shown as blank. Okay, so how do you get new checklists into the gauge? So everything anchors off the S2 button. So when you click on the S2 button, you'll see that there's a little message here that says custom list, copy all events, paste and edit in Notepad, then copy and paste back, then press the button. So you pretty much do what it says. You come over here, you click on the event drop down, copy all events. So that copies the code for the S2 button into the clipboard. So now you need to paste that into Notepad++. Okay, so once you're in Notepad++, you can simply paste your data from the S2 button straight into Notepad. And this is basically how all the data is stored. So these are the variables that the data is stored in against, and this is the text for the checklist. So you can freely edit all of this text. You can change it to whatever you like. You can change the order, and we've got some things that we can do about fixing the indexes if you break those as well. So for example, I can literally just take that line out and I can just put my name in. Darren was here, just as a very, very quick example. I'm going to pad that out with full stops, and now I've made my first edit. Let's fix that. Okay, so now I've actually made a change. Obviously you would do lots of changes. You can edit this out completely, or even start from a blank template instead of having to start from one that's already preloaded. But if you just want to drop lines out and stuff like that, you can work with the existing templates and fine tune them, refine them to how you like. So for now I've just made that one change, and it's got my name in there on variable 4. So I'm now going to highlight it all. I'm going to copy, and now I'm going to paste back. So event paste, and then you'll get a message popping up by SPAD on another screen saying, do you want to overwrite? Just say yes please, and you'll get all your new data put onto the S2 button. Now to get that onto the gauge, you just need to press the S2 button to preload that in. So let's bring the gauge back, and we'll press the S2, not before going back to the top of the list. And when you press the S2 button, you can see that line has been changed with my line. Darren was here. So that's how you very basically edit an existing list. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to load a list from outside, make your edits, and then push that in. So I've got some lists that I've already got made up. So here I have a list, and I'm going to open up the Cessna list. So this is my Cessna checklist, and I'm going to pump that in. So once you've got the checklist loaded, you can Control A to highlight all, Control C to copy, and then we go back to SPAD, click on the S2 button, and then event paste. Yes, we want to overwrite. Then we press the S2 button, and now we have a Cessna checklist in the gauge. So that's how simple it is to load a different list. And I'll go into another one. We'll stick the SR22 in there. So SR22, load all, copy, SPAD, paste, yes, overwrite, hit press S2, and now we have the Cirrus SR22 list on the checklist gauge. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get a little bit more technical, a little bit more complicated, where you can actually start moving entries within the list about, and it'll break the indexes, but I can show you how to fix all of that as well. So we'll start off by loading the blank template, so blank lines, and then we'll load that into Notepad. Let's move this out of the way for now. Now you can see all the values are completely empty. So this is where you can totally start from scratch. You've got your title up here, so that can be my first checklist. First entry, let's start off with a group. Let's call it start. I'll put it in brackets so it stands out. Next line can be start my engines. Next line can be turn on wind screen wipers. Then we go eject the misses from the plane. Yeah, you probably won't like that, but anyway, you get the idea. So now we just have to Control A, copy, back over to SPAD, S2 button, paste, overwrite, and then we hit the S2 button on the gauge, and now we have our new checklist. So it's going to go to the top. Oops, there she is. So start my engines, turn on the windscreen wipers, and eject the missiles from the plane. So as you can see, it's quite straightforward to build your checklist from a blank template. Or you can just edit an existing one. Now if you start creating quite complex ones and you want to start to rearrange them, or you've missed a line and you've got 70 entries and you've got to add a line into the middle, don't panic. It does become a problem because you can't really shift the order of the lines around without repairing the indexes of the numbers, but I'll show you how to do that now. So what we do is we will load this one, so I'm going to load the Cirrus template. Move that out of the way for now. Right, so let's just assume we've got these two entries in the wrong order. Now, Notepad++ is really good for just rearranging stuff very easily and moving stuff up and down. You simply press and hold Control and Shift, and then use the cursor keys to move that line up and down. And it's so much easier than cutting and pasting. So you might want that one there, you might want that line down there. You might decide you want to move an entire section, but if that line's wrong, you might want to add an extra line in. You could just go to the bottom list and grab a line, but you can also duplicate stuff as well. But Notepad's pretty good at rearranging stuff. But you'll notice that as I'm starting to move bits around, it's actually starting to break the index numbers. So it's gone 0, 1, 3, 9. Now that's obviously not going to work too well when you push that back into SPAD. Basically, you haven't actually changed the variable text, you've just altered the order it is in the notepad. It's not going to make any difference when you load that back in. So we do have to re-index those numbers, and that's really quite straightforward. But I'm just going to show another example. Say for instance this entire section needs to be moved or swapped over. So I'm just going to grab a block here, that entire block, and then I'm going to use Control Shift, and I'm going to use the cursors up and down, and I'm now moving that entire block. So you can manipulate your checklist, and if you want to add an extra line in, you can. The best thing to do is probably just to drop it down a line. You can go and grab a line, a blank line from below, do a cut, because you need to keep the number of lines the same. So you can cut that line out, and you can paste your new line in there, and then you can delete that line feed. So you've now got your inserted blank line. You can leave that blank or put your text in there, whatever. So you can delete lines and you can add lines, but you need to add the same number that you delete, or delete the same number that you add. So the actual overall list length is exactly the same length, but you can change the order, change the text to what you like, and once you've done, you must then re-index the numbers before you finish. It's quite a straightforward and easy process. So what we do is we scroll up to the top of the list. Now you have to place the cursor at the beginning of the first index number, so after the C and before the first number of the first index. You then scroll the list down to the bottom, and then while holding the Alt and Shift, you click after the last number of the last index, and you will now see that all of the numbers are now highlighted. Okay, so you can simply press Alt C or go to the menu, and you can do a column editor. And then in here you need to do a number, and you want to increment by 1, and you want to add leading zeros, and you say OK, and that's it. It has fixed all of those numbers. It's rewritten all of those numbers sequentially, so it's now got that list in the order that you want it. So it just leaves you to do a Control A to select all, copy, and then we'll go back over to SPAD, and we're on S2, and you can paste, acknowledge, and then I'm going to bring the gauge down, and then we'll run the S2 code, and now your new list is in with all the modifications that you've just made to it. So hopefully that's good enough to cover the editing. It probably seems a bit scary at first, but it's not too bad. So anybody can cut and paste text, shouldn't have too much of an issue of it. I mean, worst case scenario, if you spend ages working on a list and it just won't import in, then I can potentially help you out with that. You can DM me your list on the Discord, and I can have a look and see what's broken, and I can probably get it fixed. Now, if you do break the code, it won't import into SPAD. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to basically load an example. Let's see, let's get out of the way. Right, so I'm going to break the code. I'm literally going to drop off the end of this. So that's actually now broken the XML. So I'm now going to copy over to SPAD, and now I'm going to paste it back into SPAD. And now I get a blink 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 sound, which tells me that it's not having it, and I'm not getting the confirmation. So no matter what you try, it's not going to paste, and you don't get that "are you sure you want to override?" You have to get the "are you sure you want to override?" because at that point SPAD's validated the text file and it says it's going to import it. But I'm not getting the confirmation, so it's not been validated by SPAD. It's not going to load. So you're going to have to go back to your text, and then you have to find out why. Now, if you load the XML tools as a plugin in Notepad, I strongly recommend having it because it's really useful. But you can do a check XML syntax now, and it will find the line that's broken for you. So this is actually telling me that a name was started with an invalid character. So basically it says, you know, the problem occurs around here. Now it's actually indicating that this line is the broken line, but it's not. It's actually the one above. Now with XML, if a line is broken, then the second line can become part of the first line, because I've actually taken off the end comment of this line. So the code thinks that's basically all one line now, and it's obviously not. So just be careful that you don't break the formatting of the list. But if you do have the XML tools, at least it's going to tell you the very close vicinity as to where it's broken. It's always going to be just above the yellow warning signs. So I'm going to Control Z to undo what I've broken. Copy, chuck that back into SPAD, paste. Again, I've got the "do you want to override?" Yes please, and now I can press the button, and then that will load the list back in and repair what was broken. So it's also worth doing your list in bits as well. You don't want to spend 3 hours and then try and paste it in and find it doesn't want to go. But if you've got the XML tools plugin, then you can check the syntax before you throw it in. But if you're saving it on a regular basis as well, you can always go back, and I would chuck it in every 20 lines just to make certain it's working, but just make certain the index numbers are correct before you throw the list in. But yeah, you only need to really worry about changing the index numbers if you're altering the sequence of the list. So if you're cutting and pasting the list about, then you'll need to make certain that you resequence those numbers as shown earlier. Okay, so these checklists that I have so far will be zipped up, and they will be available to download from my downloads link on my website. Also, they'll be on Discord, no doubt, and hopefully I can get them shared via snippets within SPAD.next as well, so you can load them straight in from SPAD.next. It's not working currently, but I'm currently talking to SPAD about that at the moment. But this list will increase as I add them, and as they're shared with me, I will continue to add them to the zip file, so that when you download them, you'll always have the latest list of files as well. So I've currently got the Airbus, which I'm working on at the moment. I've got the Airbus A145, the blank lines you've seen, and the default. In case you break it, you can reload the 737 default, the Cessna one, the Cirrus one, and the one that comes up with just the standard line numbers that you get by default, in case you wanted to revert back to that for any particular reason. So please, create new lists, share them with me so I can share them with everyone else. And the more people that start building lists and start sharing lists, the more that will become available. Okay, well, I hope this video helped. If you have any issues using this or you get stuck in any way, then come join me on my Discord channel. Links are on my website, and feel free to ping me with any problems you've got, and I'll try and help you out. And say worst case, I can check your code and perhaps fix any bugs that you've got where the formatting may have broken. But just to reiterate, the most important thing is before you paste that back into SPAD, you must make certain that the index numbers are the same. Now, if you're just editing the text, not a problem. You just edit the text and then just paste it in. If you're shifting those lines around, get that indexed, re-indexed, and then it should paste back in okay. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the demo. So please come back and see some of our other videos and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.